Yeah, hi, hello, welcome back to my channel Attachments Things. Previously, we have done skill tutorials on many things, like we have given a lot of statements and how to write SQL commands, what are the different types of database systems we have. We have seen many things in these SQL tutorials till now. If you haven't watched those videos, please go through my channel and where we have a playlist of SQL tutorials where we have gathered and stored all the videos in a order sorted in order. So watch those videos one by one, and here comes the video of SQL database. In this video, we are going to see how to write statements or create related to database in the MS server, in the SQL server, what operations we can do in different database systems and how their syntax, like how to create tables in the database, like many things we are going to see in this video. So don't end this video or don't get distracted. So watch the video properly till end so that you will get many more things clear. So watch this video till end. We explain everything in a clear fashion with the proper syntax and one example for each. So let's get started. Before starting into this video, we are going to tell you about one simple thing. If you haven't subscribed to my channel till yet, please subscribe and click the bell icon below to get notified each time when we upload a new video related to any concepts or any tutorials or any tech related videos we will upload. So you will get notifications so that you will never miss any video of ours. So let's get started. Here is the SQL create statement. Generally in database, if you want to create anything, you can directly create by giving the new database as a right click and the particular server. Like we can add connections by normal way. So other than that normal procedure, we can also create databases by using the commands also, or statements we can say. So here we have the create database statement. This is the following syntax: create database name, the database which you want to create, the name of the database which we want to give that particular database, we have to mention that here, like create database name. Here is the example. I have created one database with a create statement. Create database table, database name which you want to give, you have to specify that name and you have to end that statement by a semicolon. For the most important thing you have to remember for creating a database is that server is having accessible, and it is make sure that you have any admin privilege before creating any data. Like once data is created, you can check it in the list of databases with the following SQL command: whether the database is created or not. Is there any restriction for you to create any database from that server or anything? You can check after the creation of database by using this show databases statement. If you give this particular statement, then you will get a list of databases in that server, so that you can make sure that your database is perfectly created. And next we also have is drop db, that is we can drop the database, like we can delete the particular database which is already existing, and if you don't want that in a further purpose, you can drop the database by using this drop statement. Like drop database, you have to mention that database name which you want to drop. So drop database name. But one thing you have to keep in the mind while dropping that: deleting any database will result in the loss of complete information stored in that database. If you again want to retrieve the database present in that particular database, you won't get that. So while dropping the particular database, you should be careful while dropping, more careful while you are dropping. Like name also you have to mention properly for dropping purpose. Here is the example. We am dropping the test DB which is previously created existing database. I don't want that database. I am just dropping that database. Database name we have to mention a semicolon. While deleting also, you make sure that you have a admin privilege before dropping any database. You are eligible to drop any database from a particular server. Likewise, once if a database is dropped, you can't get that data again. So that is the one point you have to remember while dropping any particular database. Even if you're dropping a database, you can check the list of databases which are present in that server by using this statement like show databases. You can check whether the particular database which you want to drop is dropped or not, is still existing in the databases. You can check by using this show databases. You will get a list of databases present in that server. So cross check that is the dropping is done successfully or not. Next we have another more statement called backup statement. Backup database statement. This statement is generally used in SQL Server to create a full backup of existing SQL database. If you are having a particular SQL database and you want a copy of that or a backup of that, then you can do it by using this backup statement. Backup database and database name you have to mention, and to where you have to backup, like to which disk you have to backup that particular database. Like this follow have you have to follow this particular syntax to do so. Backup database name to disk, we have to give the file path to which we have to backup all this SQL database. And next we also have a backup with an differential statement. What is this differential backup means? You can backup only the parts of database that have changed since the last full backup. Like if you have backup at one time and you have done changes in the SQL statements or database, but if you want to again backup that changes, then you don't need to have the entire backup. If you go with this differential, then this differential will make only the backup the changes which you have done. So this is the one main advantage we have in backup with differential. This is the following syntax, like backup database name to which disk, and with differential we have to give with differential. Without differential you can just skip this part. Up to 2 disk is enough. And here is the example of backup where we are backupping this test DB database which is already created to the disk of path D disk. I am giving the path in the D disk in this folder, and we have to copy that particular database into this file. Likewise, I have given that file path. And next you also have to remember while doing these things like backupping, you have to be backup the database to different drive than the actual database. If your actual database present in the C drive, then it is better to backup on the D drive. That will help you to while changing things. Like if you any disk like C disk maybe a crash, you have a crash on that disk, then if it is similar backup is also present in the same disk, then you will lose the entire data. If your backup is on other disk than the actual database, then you will not lose your backup file along with the database. So that will help you in any purpose. So better to go with the other disk to store the backup of any database. Here is the example with differential, like testdb from 2 disk. From this database I am backupping to this path and this file with differential. With by differential, what it can change, the differential backup reduces the backup time. Like it only changes the changes which you have done since the last backup, right? So only the changes that are backup will be go to that file. So time will be reduced, like backup time will be reduced by using this differential. So better to go with this backup with differential. This is the following syntax everyone have to follow. And next up to database we have seen. Now comes to table. How to create a table, like the same similar database how we have created similar way we can create table by using this create table statement. By this create table statement we can create a new table in the database. Like create table, you have to give the table name, parenthesis open, and columns you have to specify which column along with the data type of the column you have to mention. You can have one or more many columns in a particular table. The column parameter specifies the name of the particular column, and data type parameter specify the type of the data of that column can hold. Okay, for example, integer value or date value or varchar value it can store. Likewise, here is an example of a table which is created with the name of persons, having the columns as person ID, last name and first name, and address we have, and have city, which is of different types. Person ID is the int type, and along last name and first name and address will be the varchar type, which is of maximum field of 255 characters we have. Here is the person table created if you run this particular statement. But without we are not inserting any data, so normal table structure has came here as an output. For creating another table, we can also have a copy of the particular table by using this create table statement. Like copying of existing table also can be created by using create statement. The new table gets the column definitions. All the columns are specific columns from the selected. You can select, or you can also get all the columns, or from a table if you want to copy only particular columns you can also do by using this create table. Like if you want to create a new table, for example using an existing table, the new table will be filled with the existing values from a old value. If you are copying something, the same values which are in the previous things will be reflected in the new table also. Like values also we get on that new table. This here is the syntax. Like create table, new table name we have to mention as is the alias name we have to give. This table name I am giving alias name. Select here we have to write the which columns you have to get from which table. Like select column from is the basic thing. If you have any condition, you can apply for that particular thing. On this condition, you have to copy. Likewise, you can give. Here is the example of a test table, which is a copy of the particular table from the customers table. I'm only selecting two columns from the customer table, like select customer name and contact name from customers, and I'm creating the table of test table as these things, like copy of that customers table with two columns. And next we have one more thing called drop table. Like this is one of the another operation which we can perform on table. Like drop table is used to drop an existing table in the database. How we have dropped the database, which we have seen in the drop db, like dropping database, we have a similar way we also can drop a table which we don't need to have in that database, which we are unnecessary tables we can drop by using this drop table. But be careful while dropping the table. Like deleting a table will result in the loss of information stored in the table. Similarly, while dropping a database, how much careful you are dealing with. At the same time, while dropping table also, you have to be pay attention. Like dropping table is nothing but you are losing the information which is existing on the table, right? And next we have an example of drop table. Like drop table, shippers table I am dropping here. You have to mention the name of the table. And also with the drop, we have a truncate table, one more statement which is similar to drop but quite different. Like it is used to delete the data inside the table also, not only but not the table itself. Like truncate means not on not destroying the entire table structure but only the data inside the table. Like if a table having person id and contact name and everything, if you drop the table, then the entire thing will be destroyed. For example, if a person id and person name having the records, if you use this truncate table, the only the records present in the table may be inside data will be deleted, but the entire structure of the table will remain same. Okay, that is the difference between drop and truncate table statements. Next, we have one more statement with the table. That is nothing but this alter table statement. The alter table statement is used to add, delete, or modify columns in the existing table. Alter table statement is used to add and drop various constraints on a existing table. Like we can add constraints, or we can remove constraints, or we can add or modify columns for a table. Like we can do this type of things by using this alter table. Here is the example of adding a column. Here what I have done, alter table, table name, and add column name which you have to add, and data type you have to mention. Similarly, while creating a create table, how we have done, the same thing follows, but the syntax will be different. Like we are altering the particular already created one thing. So alter table, already created table of name customers. We are adding an email column which is of type varchar of maximum line 255. Here is the drop column. In alter table, altering the table, we can also drop the particular column on the table, right? So alter table, table name, and drop column, which column you have to drop, and you can mention the column name. Like the thing which we have added with the add statement, and we are making it removing that particular column. So drop column, email column I have removed. And next with the alter table statement, we can also alter columns also. Column data types also we can alter, like we can do. Different types of database systems have different types of syntaxes. Like in MS Access and SQL Server, we use this alter column, column name, data type as a syntax. Whereas alter table, table name, modify, we use in MySQL or Oracle. So some simple difference will be there from data system to data system. So I have to go through these key syntaxes for particular things which you are using. So that will help you. So this is the alter table examples, where we have this person's table with five columns of ID, last name, first name, address, city. I'm adding one more column to this, like alter table, add date of birth, that is of date type. Now this is added. You can see here by adding, I'm not inserting any data, so like this will get the as output. Next, I'm changing what I'm changing. I'm changing the date of birth, which is of a date type to a year type. We can do by using this alter statement. Like altered column, we have seen previous. This is an example of that. Alter table persons, I am altering the column date of birth, which is of type into year. So now after changing the particular thing, the record which we are going to store in that particular date of birth, the or data which you are going to share in the date of birth should be of type year only, not on the type of date. So likewise, we can alter the data type also of a particular column. Not only data type, we can do any operations of the particular column by using this alter table. Like we can drop the particular column which we have created. So I'm here dropping the column data of birth which I don't need here. So that is removed. So the table is previous, as same as previous things. Like we can do these type of things. Like alter table means adding any column or changing the column name or changing the column type or changing the column constraint we can do, or we can drop the particular column. Likewise things we can do by using this alter table. And next we have one more thing in SQL things is constraints. SQL constraints are most important. That SQL constraints have many constraints. This is used to specify a rule for the database. Like data, when you are inserting data, the rules given by us through this constraint that they have to follow before inserting the data into the record, the table. Here is the SQL create constraints. Constraints can be specified when the table is created with the create table or after the table is created with alter table statement. Like these constraints can be applied in the create table statements also, or also maybe the alter table statements also. Likewise, in these type of statements, we can see this SQL constraints. Like create table, we have seen the example. Like create table, table name, column, data type. Up to here, we have seen. The one more thing which are added here is constraint. Also, we can add for a particular column also, or we can also add a constraint to a column level, or also we can add it in a table level also. So column level is applied to column only, whereas table level constraint will apply to the whole table, right? Constraints is nothing but giving a rules for the values or data, like to limit the type of data which we are going to insert on a particular table. Like accuracy and reliability of the data in the table will be increases if you do these type of things. If any violation happens between the constraints and data action, then the action is aborted. If there is no mismatching, or if you want to give other than the value which they are asking for the particular column, then that will be rejected. Likewise, we can do by using these constraints. Like we can give any condition for the data which had to be inserted. Like these are the constraints which we have in this SQL, like not null, unique, primary key, foreign key, check, default, create index. Let's see one by one in a clear manner. Like not null is a constraint which is used to set a default value, right? By default, a column will hold a null values, but if you indicate any column should be as a not null by using this not null constraint, that will enforce a column should not accept null values. Like it should have a value on that. It doesn't have to contain a null value. This will enforce a field to always contain a value, which means that you can't insert a new record or update a record without adding a value to this field. Like this type of things can be done by using this not null. Here is the example with the create table. We have seen a persons, and this particular things are created here, which is I am giving the ID as not null. So ID should be present for every person. It should not be null. Without having a null value in the ID, that record can't be inserted. Like the things we can do by using this not null statement. So here is the example. And we can also apply not null in the create table also and alter table also, like alter table persons, and modify age and not null. I'm giving the age column also not null here. So like the things we can also do, like by creating also you can specify if you want to, if you don't want at that time, after some time after the creation of table, if you want to add a not null to the particular field or column, we can say you can use this alter table command, alter table name, modify. You want to modify which particular column, you can give that, and you can specify the type, and you can give the not null constraint there. So that is very easy syntax, we can say. And next we will have one more thing called as unique constraint. That is nothing but unique constraint ensures that all value in the columns are different. Like many column values will be same in some kinds of tables. Like if you want to make that values should be different for every each and every record of a particular column, then you can use this unique statement. This unique and primary key constraints are two similar things. Like it will guarantee for the uniqueness of a column or a set of columns, but primary key constraints automatically have a unique constraint. However, you will have for one table you will have many unique constraints, but only one primary key constraint for the table. Like one table you will have only one primary key, whereas unique keys can be many in a particular table. Like here is a syntax with the create table. Create table, I am creating the person's table with the ID, last name and first name, age as parameters or column names we can say. I'm giving the unique as a ID. For the ID column I'm giving unique. That ID should be unique. Not two persons will have the same ID. That should be unique. I'm mentioning the constraint as unique for the field of ID. This particular syntax will work for only database systems, that is of SQL Server, Oracle, and MS Access only. In coming to MySQL, you don't have to follow this particular syntax. You have to follow this particular syntax. Like create table persons, you have to finally we have to mention the constraint, unique keyword, and if that what type of column should be unique, you have to give that column name. Likewise, you have to follow the syntax. You can also give a name for the unique constraint by using this following syntax. Like create table, at last you can add constraint keyword with the name as a user defined name, and unique what type of constraint it is. Constraint, first constraint name, and next unique or which type of constraint it is, and for which column you have to apply. Like if you want to apply the constraint on multiple columns, then you can give this by following this particular syntax. Like ID and last name should be unique. The combination of these two should be unique for each and every record which we have to insert. So like the things will happen. Here is the example with alter table persons add unique ID. This type of database will gives this type of syntax. Here MySQL, SQL Server, Oracle, these things with the two different columns should be unique. Then you have to follow this add constraint name unique, and two columns you have to mention here. If you go with the two columns, then you have to give that constraint name. That will be a mandatory one. You have to follow the particular syntax for doing so. And next, how we have dropped the drop table and drop database we have done. Like we can also drop a constraints also which are present in particular column. Like drop level at columns also we can do. Like alter table persons drop index, UC person we can drop. We have to follow the particular syntax in MySQL. In SQL Server or MyAccess or Oracle, you can just give drop command and constraint name which you have given previously. You can drop that record or constraint we can say. And next we have one more thing called as primary key constraint. This primary key constraint identifies unique values. Like each and record should be unique by if you give this primary key. Primary key must contain unique values and cannot contain null values. It should be a not null and unique value. Like table can have only one primary key in the and in the table primary key consists of single or multiple columns. We can have these things. Should be only one primary key for every table. Here is the create table syntax. Primary key, what I have mentioned is the ID as a primary key. Here you can see in MySQL you have to give at the end of this columns, and MySQL you can directly give at that column only. ID int not null primary key. You can also specify two keys as a primary keys by using this constraint, this following syntax. Like constraint and constraint name you can give as user defined, and what type of constraint, that is a primary key or unique key you have to mention here, and what columns you have to give that particular key you have to give here. So likewise you can do in this example primary key. However, the value of primary key is made up of two columns. Here primary key I'm doing by adding two columns like ID and last name. Two both creates a primary key which is to be unique for each and every record, right? You can also apply primary key on the alter table. Here is the syntax: alter table persons add primary key and ID. For MySQL you have to follow syntax. For Oracle you can directly give it that while defining the column. And here is the add constraint name and primary key. For two columns you have to specify the two columns. So likewise if you go with the two columns, then you go with the constraint keyword in your database statements. Likewise you can drop how you have dropped the unique constraint. Likewise you can drop this primary constraint also. Like if you go with alter table person drop primary key, alter table persons drop constraint pk, means you are removing the two attached columns as a primary key. Then you have to go follow this particular syntax for doing so. Like constraint name, And next we have one more key, that is foreign key, which is most important thing. This is used to prevent the actions that destroy the links between two tables. Foreign key is a field or collection of fields in one table that refers to a primary key in another table. Like linking of tables can be done by using this primary key. Like the table with the the table with the foreign key is a child table, we can say. Like table with the primary key as a parent table. Like foreign key is referring to the parent, like child is referring to the parent. Here foreign key is referring to the parent, which is primary key present in other table. Here is the two tables I have taken for the example, that is person table and orders table. Person table having person id, last name, first name and age. Order tables also having order id, order number and order id, person id. Here in this person table I am taking person id as a primary key, and orders table I am taking person id as in foreign key, so that I can match these two tables with this foreign key and primary key, where foreign key has to refer parent key, that is p primary key. So the following syntax we can see here. Here you have like a person id and person id in both the tables, where person id in persons is primary key, where person id in orders key is foreign key. Here foreign key constraint prevents invalid data from being inserted into the foreign key column, because it is having only one of the values contained in the parent table. Okay. Foreign key on create table, here we have created orders tables with the particular columns like order id, order number and person id we have created. I'm giving a defining a primary key as order id. Here in this table primary key is order id, and here in this table only I'm giving foreign key also, but foreign key will be a person id which is present in the reference, or taking a reference in the persons table person id. So likewise you have to refer, like you have to follow this particular syntax while giving foreign key are the particular column name which we are taking as foreign key, and references keyword, and from reference which table we are taking which column, likewise you have to mention. In MySQL this is the following syntax. If you go with the other database system, you have to follow this references, like you have to do at that column only. Like for person id I am taking that column constraint as a foreign key. You can directly specify foreign key from references to the persons table from the person id. So likewise also you can do in this database systems. Here is the example. You can also apply foreign key for two multiple tables by using this following syntax, like constraint. After giving data table columns, we can say a primary key as order t, and giving a person id as a foreign key. Likewise you have to write like constraint foreign key name you have to give if you go with the multiple columns, right? Multiple constraints like foreign key person id and references person id we have to write like this in this particular database systems. And next we can also add this foreign key while using this alter table. After creation of particular database also we can give this foreign keys also. So not only by while altering the tables we can add foreign key, we can also drop a foreign key if you don't want that foreign key anymore in the already created database with the constraint of particular column. You can also do by using this alter table orders drop foreign key of that particular name foreign key. Like drop constraint, we can give direct constraint name no need to give the particular constraint of which type, like foreign key or primary key. You can just give the constraint name and name of that particular thing, then it will be drop. But dropping anything you should be careful. Okay. And next we have one more constraint called as a check constraint. Check constraint is generally used to limit a range of values that should be placed in a column. Like if you want to place these type of values only, I want to place only values greater than 10, or likewise only no, the values which are less than 10 I don't want to insert that values in a table. Likewise how can we do these type of things will come, then we can have to use this check constraint. This check constraint will help us to do such kind of things. Like it will allow us to certain values for the column to be inserted. Like if you want to define a check constraint on a table, it will limit the values in the certain columns based on the values in the other table. Like here is the create table example where we have created id, last name and first name and age. That I am checking that age should be greater than or equal to 18, and then only you have to create a particular record. Like here in the other servers we can directly give at last we are giving check statement or check constraint. Here you have to apply for the particular column, then directly you can specify that check constraint to the particular column here. So the syntax may be different, but the operation of this check condition is similar. Like allowing a name to the constraint is also can be done. Like check constraint on multiple columns, you have to use this particular syntax. Like constraint, you have to give constraint name and what type of constraint you have to give that check constraint. I'm applying check constraint for both age column and city column, so we can't write it both things. So we have to mention, we have to follow this particular syntax for applying check condition for two columns, so that will be easy, right? Like similarly, how we can apply primary key and foreign key, unique key on by using alter table. Like already created database also we can alter, or we can add any check conditions or constraints on that also. Like alter table persons, I am adding check condition as the age is greater than 18, that you have to check that age is 18 or not, then only you have to insert the particular record on the table. Likewise you can do, like if you want a multiple columns to be checked on that particular thing, then you can use this particular syntax, which is constraint name, and check those values. Not only those things to be dropped, this constraint also dropped. So all the constraints and all the databases and all the tables we can drop, we can apply this drop thing to these all things. So this a particular syntax will be different. Like constraint, you have to mention here in the constraint name in these databases and servers. In this database systems, like you have to give the drop check what is the constraint name, you have to give that constraint name semicolon, so that it will drop that particular constraint from that particular database. Okay. And next we have one the more constraint, which is nothing but a default constraint. Default constraint is used to set a default value or a column for particular field. If you don't insert any value, then what value it will take? By default, it will take a null value. If you don't want null value in that particular field, then you have to, if anyone didn't enter, give him a 5 as a default value. Likewise, how can we do at the times, like we have a default statement here to do such kind of things. Here is the example with the create table we have created with these columns as a person table. I am creating a city as in settings as a default value. If anyone doesn't provide any city or column data, then it will take default value as settings as this value. They can all not only setting a value, you can also insert a values in the particular thing as default value from the functions also. Particular function will return any value, so that value we can set as a default value for particular database. Here I am using a get data, which will give a present data. If you order anything or inserting any record, if you didn't give an order date, then it will defaultly take as a today's date as a order date. Likewise, you can also use this default after creating a particular table or database. You can set a value as a sentence for the by using this alter table. Likewise, you can add constraint name and default value as this for particular column. Like city, you have to follow this particular syntax for different types of database. So refer this site and go through many examples and try this. So likewise, you can also drop a default constraint, like how we are dropping unique and primary key and foreign key check constraints. Like we can also do this thing. Like constraints are many types, like not null constraint we have, and unique constraint we have, like primary key we have, foreign key we have, check constraint we have, default constraint we have, and final thing we have an index constraint also. Create index statement. This is also one of the constraint we can say. It is used to create indexes in a table. Indexes are used to retrieve data from the database more quickly than otherwise. To retrieve the data from the large number of records, which will be a bit difficult for us. So if you want to retrieve data with much more quickly than other previous thing, we can use these indexes. The user can't see the indexes. They are just used to speed up the searches and queries. The user can't see this indexes, like what the index we have inserted, the user can't see. But it will generally helps us to for the searching purpose in that queries. Likewise, like updating a table with the indexes takes more than updating the table without. Like if the indexes is there, it will take more time updating the table before than the previous thing. So better to use these things, because the speed will be reduces, like speed will be high if you use this type of things, because indexes also needs an update, so that's why it will take time. So you can create indexes on the column that will be frequently searched against. So not by creating every for all the columns. You can just create indexes for the frequently used columns, so that will may help you at speed also. That will not take much time while updating. Okay, so like the things you can do here. I am using the create index statement. Here, creating an index on table, duplicate values are allowed. By creating the index, the duplicate values are allowed. Like create index name we have to write. On this table we have to create index, table name we have to mention, columns you have to mention. Like you can also give an unique index also, like creating a unique index on a table. Duplicate values are not allowed. If you don't want to get duplicate values also, you can give as a unique keyword along with the create index. Like create unique index, then index name, on which table you have to create that particular index, you have to specify. This index for creating indexes among the different tables. Therefore, check this index by creating indexes in your databases will be different. The syntax will be somewhat different. Here is the example. I am creating an index which is named of IDX, index of a last name, on persons table. For which column we are creating means for the last name we are creating index which is of on the persons column. Likewise, you can do. You want to create an index on the combination of columns, like 2 or more columns. If you want to create an index for that, you can also do that. Like you have to list the column names within the parentheses separated by the comma. Like create index name you have to give on which table, on table name, and 2 columns you have to specify in the parentheses separated by a comma. Like how we are dropping all the constraints, we can also drop this last constraint, which is nothing but index constraint. Like drop index is the statement which is used to delete an index in a table. Index is nothing but a name, which is a, we can say, search name. Like for the searching purpose, it will help you if you are giving any index name for particular column or table, we can say. Like drop index name which you want to drop on which table is that index. So you can drop by using this following syntax for different purposes. Like SQL you have to give drop index, table name dot index name you have to give. In the Oracle you have to just give drop index name is enough. In MySQL you have to write alter table name, drop index name you have to write. For different particular servers, the syntax will be different. So check what type of server you are using, database system you are using. So that will help you to crack this. And next we have one more thing which is called as auto increment. This auto increment field is much seen in this SQL database or tables, we can say. In many fields and many people have included this auto increment. What is this auto increment actually means? It will allow you a unique number to be generated automatically, like random, not a random number, but it should be a unique number generated accordingly before the previous records. Like when the record is inserted into a table, the unique value is generated for the particular record automatically. You don't need have to create. That will be the increment of previous or ID of a record. So then this is the primary key field that would be like to be created automatically every time a new record is inserted. Like we have a primary key which is a not null and should be unique value. So if you give auto incremented to the particular ID or we can say primary key, then it will give a incremented automatically when a new record is inserted. Like here is the syntax for MySQL. Here I am defining it, creating a table with the person's table name, which is having person ID and last name, first name, age, these things. I'm giving auto increment for the ID which is not null value, which is a primary key also, so that it will be auto incremented to perform an auto increment feature. By default, starting value of auto increment will be 1. It will be incremented by 1 each time when we insert a new record. So default value is 1. It will increment each time when we upload a new record. So let auto increment sequence start from another value. Use this following syntax. If you don't want to start with 1, then you can also give the auto increment value or set a value from which you have to start that particular counting. Like you can give by this thing, alter table persons table. I'm setting the auto increment as 100. From 100 I want to increment if any record is inserted. Likewise things you can do. Like you can also do that. You can insert a new record with the person's table. In the person's table, like we don't have to specify the value for the person ID column. That should be a unique value will be added automatically. Then also you can do by using this. Like insert into persons. These things, values, which unique value you have to mention, you can mention this type. So likewise also you can do. SQL statements above would insert a new record into persons table. The person ID column will be inside a new unique value. The first column should be set to Laresh and the last name column should be set to Mohsin. Likewise, you can give a unique values to particular columns. Here is the syntax for the persons table for creating table persons. Here I am giving a person ID int identity 1, 1 primary key. By using this identity keyword, it is also performing a auto increment feature. What the difference means, the database is different, the database system is different. For MySQL, you have to follow this particular syntax, which is having keyword of auto increment. Where if you comes to SQL server, you don't have any keyword like auto increment. You have to go with the identity 1, 1. This will perform the same operation of as auto increment. The starting value is 1 and incremented by 1. If you don't want to start with the 1, then you can also set a value like increment, say start from the 10 and increment by changes by 1, or you can give any number as second parameter, that is 5. You can, if the first record is 10, the other record will be 15th record. Likewise, you can do by using this identity keyword, which is used in MySQL. Here is the example. Not only the setting one value, you can also set the unique values for two different columns things, or you can do this type. Follow this syntax, insert into person first name and last name values you can give. This is same for MySQL and also MS SQL. For access, that will be different, like you have to give auto increment primary key. Previously it is which is of having a dash in between auto and increment. Here is we don't have anything, direct auto increment is a keyword and primary key we have to mention. If auto increment, you can give a column values like from which value it is auto increment and what is the differences. You can give in a parenthesis separated by a comma, that will take a value. So different types of servers, different types of syntax is there. For Oracle, this type of syntax is there, like create sequence first and minimum value you have to set and start with it. You have to set and incremented by, you can also set like minimum value. Likewise, you can do like catch value also you can set as 10. Like things you can do. Different types of servers have different types of auto increment syntaxes. Which server you are using, so use the type of syntax that will give best results without any errors or anything. So that's all for today. I'm giving most of the content I have covered, that is creating tables, how to drop a table and how to make a backup of the particular database, and how to drop a database and how to create a database, how to alter a table, and SQL constraints we have seen, which are of not null, unique, and primary key and foreign key, and we have a check constraint, we have a default constraint, and we have a create index constraint. And here comes the last thing is nothing but a auto increment field we have seen. These types of things we have seen. And finally, we have with this SQL data types. We have data types used while creating a columns, and many things we use this database. So getting knowledge on those data types is also very important. Data types for MySQL, SQL Server, and MS Access. Each column in the data table is required to have a name, and its data type is mandatory for what type of data should be inserted in a particular table, that we have to mention. In MySQL data types of version 8.0, this type of varchar, binary, binary, tiny bold, and tiny text. Medium text, medium long text is about things, and numerical data, bit, tiny bit, boolean, small int, medium int, like this type of things is there. You can go through, if you go through this website, which is a w3schools.com. If you go this SQL column, you will have SQL data types in this SQL database column, so that you will get clarity if you once go through all these things, and what will be the minimum value of that particular database, and what will be the maximum value, which type of things will be used when you want, which type of data will be suitable for this. So you can check if you go to this website. If you feel this tutorial as useful, if you like this video, give a big thumbs up below. And if you have any comments or suggestions on our tutorials, you can feel free to comment in the comment section. If your friends or colleagues are starting this SQL things or learning basic things of web development, you can suggest our videos to them, and this website also, that will help them to start with a good thing. Our videos are so simple with the simple English, so that everyone will clearly understood whatever we are teaching. And this is a live platform, which is an online website. You can parallelly go and practice in this, which we have a trait editor which will help you a lot while reading and learning things. So we can see practical outputs here by using this online editor which is providing by this w3schools.com. So that's all for today. Thanks for watching. If you have any doubts, you can feel free to comment in the comment section. So let's see, and let's see in other session related to JavaScript or HTML forms or anything. So until then, bye bye.